The motion picture, a child of our 19th century scientific curiosity that grew up under our 20th century noses. This child first caught our eye with scenes of daily life, like this Easter parade at the turn of the 20th century. But movie makers soon realized there were subjects that would attract a larger audience and increase the take. For only 5 cents, you could visit a Nickelodeon and see the true wonders of turn-of-the-century America. And look at what 5 cents would buy. Latina the Contortionist. You wouldn't find her in your hometown. Or Eugene Sandow, the strongman, the Arnold Schwarzenegger of his day. Lillian Russell, the belle of Broadway, Diamond Jim Brady's lady. Or that master magician Harry Houdini with his amazing sleight of hand. And anytime you wanted, Nickelodeons could provide 5 cents worth of slapstick. From the beginning, comedy was a key ingredient in the magic of the movies. Hollywood was founded in 1912 to accommodate a group of New York producers who headed west to avoid the effects of a patent trust. They found year-round sunshine and every kind of natural backdrop they might need to make a movie. The first real movie comedy star was a 300 pantomime actor who'd polished his skills over the years in minstrel shows. Starting in 1910, John Bunny made over 200 short films in less than 5 years. Among them was a series of husband and wife comedies, Finch. Starred domestic situation comedy series on film. Many believe Bunny would have gone on to be an even bigger star had he not died. Here playing the butler in an early comedy short is Mack Sennett, a contemporary of Bunny who was about to become the movie's first mogul of comedy. Sennett's Keystone Studio got rolling in 1912. And among its unusual features was this ingenious revolving cyclorama. Actors could act in place while the magic swirled around them. Sennett summed up his comedy technique in 4 words: it's got to move. The Nickelodeon gave way to an upright screen in a theater filled with seats filled with people who came to see comedy, to the accompaniment of live music on piano or organ. A fast favorite in 1913 was Mack Sennett's Bangville Police, soon to be known as the Keystone Cops. Under Sennett's guidance, the bumbling behavior of the Keystone Cops grew from a state of organized chaos into a kind of full-blown comic logic that audiences loved. They still do. And everything the cops did, those crazy stunts, they did for real. Extras were actually paid $2 a foot to fall off buildings or cliffs. Among the original Keystone Cops was their leader, Ford Sterling, who was parodied by other early movie greats. Like Will Rogers, who once said, "There's only one thing that can kill the movies, and that's education." And Buster Keaton, a stone-faced cop if ever there was one. And here's a king-size Keystone. He never weighed let him first. Arbuckle who shifted gears and emerged as one of the most masterful writers and directors. Fatty played many different kinds of characters, including sometimes women. Here in Miss Fatty's Seats is a glimpse of the flying. Fatty teamed up in 38 films with a former model, Mabel Normand, who became the #1 female comedy star of the silent years. Fatty and Mabel weathered the storm. Here they are in 1915, trying to hole up in what they think is just a hard rain. Comes the dawn, and Fatty awakes to discover water in the bedroom. And with good reason, at the height of the storm, their cottage has drifted out to sea. As Fatty and Mabel can't swim, there's only one thing to do: send Fido to get help. Fortunately for Fatty and Mabel, the message does get through to nearby neighbors. And who else to call but the Keystone Cops? There's that spinning cyclorama again. Fatty and Mabel's films ended on a much happier note than their lives. Fatty, who was falsely accused in a manslaughter case, was found completely innocent. Yet his career was destroyed. In his last years, he found work only as a director under the alias of William Goodrich. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, a legend of comedy who died broken-hearted in 1933. The madcap motion of Mack Sennett movies were always a delight, and so were his scandalous bathing beauties. Sennett figured that pretty girls wearing pretty little would sell lots of tickets, and of course they did. One Sennett girl who went on to become a real superstar was Gloria Swanson. Another was the very young and very lovely Carole Lombard. But the silent screen's leading lady of comedy remained Mabel Normand. Charlie Chaplin called her Beauty Among the Beasts. Mabel entered films at the age of 16, did virtually all her own stunts, and was one of the first leading ladies to take a pie in the face. Her daring exploits achieved stardom for Mabel equal to Chaplin, Keaton, and Arbuckle. And she successfully worked both sides of the camera as an actress and... In The Extra Girl in 1924, Mabel plays a bit player at a silent movie studio. She's asked to place a lion's head on her dog Teddy so that Teddy can make it into the movie. What Mabel doesn't know is that Teddy will be used only in close-up scenes. Mabel returns to give her dog a drink. It must be hot under that lion's head. Not having much luck getting the water to Teddy, she decides to bring Teddy to the water, unaware that Teddy is on the set, and this instead is the real lion. The background for this stone studio lot, with sections of scenery set up for the 2 or 3 other started and completed that week. Mabel Normand's comedy was in the great Keystone tradition, energetic and extremely slapstick. Like Chaplin, Keaton, and nearly every other star of silent screen comedy, Mabel was as much an acrobat and gymnast as she was an actress. Here's one of Mabel's most famous roles, in 1913 as a secretary in Mabel's Stratagem. The wife of the boss catches him flirting with Mabel and has Mabel and all the other female secretaries fired. Here comes the missus, this time to see her new boyfriend. Mabel has a male secretary, only to get flirted at by the wife. This plot, even by today's standards, is racy. The boss and his lawyer suspect and surprise. In order to save the day, Mabel must reveal, which she does to everyone's and relief. Mabel Normand lived a free-spirited life, and eventually several scandals damaged her career. Like Fatty Arbuckle, she was never actually found guilty of anything, but her audiences faded away. The lovely young girl who Chaplin called Beauty Among the Beasts died of tuberculosis at 36. Charlie Chaplin was a brilliant protege, one of the screen's most recognizable figures and one of the most imitated performers of all time. Chaplin was born in London, the son of music hall performers. He came to America on a vaudeville tour and was signed by Max Sennett in 1913. That same year, he invented his famous tramp character by borrowing Fatty Arbuckle's pants, a cane, and big shoes. It was those shoes that gave him his funny walk, and his years at Keystone that gave him a chance to develop as a writer, director, and star of classic films. Charlie Chaplin at work. His body language spoke volumes to America. Remember, secret to success? Well, Charlie kept things moving in most of his films, and in most of his films, what was moving was Charlie. Charlie's tramp could be rude, but also sentimental and often sympathetic. But that's not what he is right here. His seat at a busy lunch counter. Is Gentleman of Nerve in 1914, is Max Swain, a vaudeville veteran who became an expert slapstick. In 60 seconds, Charlie's little tramp lunch counter into an all-out assault. A little shoe, but always at the end, a graceful goodbye. Charlie Chaplin was a complete filmmaker. Script, things on the set. Slow evolution of just one gag might require more than 100 takes. Chaplin was a perfectionist all through life, making movie or music. It was Charlie who sang Cole's hit, Smile, and Petula Clark's This Is... Charlie Chaplin, genuine greats among the legends of... And that brings us to Joseph Francis Keaton, great stone face. The kid he was called Vaudevillians. Harry Houdini, named Buster, stole the way. An incredible foe of horns with nature, machines, and the forces of authority, boldness, and utter surprise. Keaton developed his film comedy skills by working for Fatty Arbuckle 19 to 1920. I learned it all from him in the fine art of comedy timing. Here's an example as a basic chase into a massive movie magic. In his 1920 film, 1 Week, Buster faced another problem: how to move a house he'd built himself from one side of the railroad track. Buster discovers something very important. Is now stuck on the railroad tracks. Buster always played a solitary soul struggling against a world of uncontrollable fears against the wind in Steamboat. Few shots in the history of the movies are as the falling facade shed. All carefully planned, Keaton's cameraman simply could not watch as the 2-ton wall fell, missing Keaton inches. Buster Keaton. Fraser, after opera in Australia, came to America himself as Snub Pop. Snub was famous for his one mechanical gag. In this 1923 gem, It's a Gift, they all came together in one big... With one, Snub could turn gar to garage. It made the perfect home for his answer to gas guzzlers. A one-man car propelled by a magnet. Armistice Day, November 11th, 1918, one of the greatest days in that first part of the 20th century. War was over, the boys were coming home with great stories that might inspire in films. Just about star in Hollywood military movie. And Harry Langdon, faced melancholy clown, was a big favorite in the 1920s. He played a shy, childlike man lost in a world of confusion who somehow survived on sheer faith and luck. He was, in many respects, an adult infant, a true innocent faced with one daring challenge after another. then, though, play the brave guy, like in this scene with the evil villain. Were a lot of silent comedies kind of like live-action cartoons? Villain after he hits those rocks below. In the 1924 film His Marriage Wow, Harry Langdon attempts to fight with the perfectly played by Louise Carver. Later have the biggest, meanest dog he can find. Harry Langdon wrote films like Laurel and Hardy, his own career as he slowly grew the baby face that had helped make him a star.
I hope we're not in trouble.
That man with the lion was Harold Lloyd, the king of daredevil comedy. He became the highest paid and most popular maker of motion picture mirth in the 1920s. Unlike other comedians who relied on silly clothes or outfound his greatest fame playing the average, everyday man on the who just filled. Or as Harold
is the architect of his own fortune.
Don't start people at the top, you understand. That would be too easy. We do it the American. We get them to work up from the bottom. Satisfaction. What the feeling of accomplishment you will have when you are able to look back on the ladder you're want to say, I did.
Yes, sir.
Harold screen always the Horatio Alger type. In his early played Willie Work and then Chaplain Bumpkins. Then in 1917, formation of horn-rimmed glasses and became the dapper young man with the all-American charm. His success seemed unlimited until midway through making this movie, Haunted Spooks, in 1920. It was then that Harold publicity picture holding what he thought was a prop bomb. It wasn't. Finding him, and for many thought it refused to, and with the aid of love, went on to make his all-time greatest films. Safety Last in 1923 was one of them. This classic scene was shot up with no doubles and no trick photography. That's really Harold Lloyd out there, clinging to this building with 1.5 hands. Was there advances needed to marry the girl of his dreams. That was the standard plot of most Harold Lloyd movies, a struggle for success, ultimately won through sheer determination and luck. Here's one final example of Harold Lloyd at his very best. In 1925, Holy Wall team, but dreams of becoming the most popular man on campus. Finally, in the big game, he gets to prove himself. Will he be the all-American hero? A triumphant Harold Lloyd, the daredevil legend of comedy.
Most comedians are, well, they're just funny to look at, you know, just plain homely. Yeah, I'm about it's not just odd-looking, distinguished-looking man walking towards the microphone.
Wide grin is Will Rogers, who most of America got to know as a humorist on radio 30s. Long career doing Wild West. He moved on to big time in Old Follies on Broadway.
I started with the Old Follies when it was in a sketch and I needed a baby in the part. I was nursing on a milk bottle and they had replaced the milk with gin. The joke was on everybody but me.
In 1918, Will Rogers starred mostly parodies of the big box office hits of the day. Robin Hood, a 1920s Douglas Fairbanks. In the Will Rogers version, Robin is still pretty handy with a bow and arrow, but Tree, his swash-having buck four. And how about Western star Tom? Will Rogers felt right at home. And as he'd been raised on a ranch, Will Rogers was able to do all his own dangerous stunt work. Will's real specialty, though, was topical humor, comic commentaries on the headlines of the day. He never had to invent jokes. All he had to do was watch the government and report the facts. Will Rogers used to say,
Well, what I read in the paper.
There's nothing will upset a state's economic condition like a legislature. It's better to have turmoil in a legislature. The other day they repealed a law up here where, you know, you're married, you had to give 3 days notice. You used to have to in this state give intention of marrying. Well, they did away with that. It was longer than most of the marriages in California was lasting.
Will Rogers, who called the U.S. Senate the joke factory, became the confidant of senators, kings, and in 1932, a presidential hopeful.
Now, this introduction hasn't been very learned or very flowery, but remember, you're only a candidate. Because I'm certainly wasting no oratory on a prospect.
Will Rogers loved America and spent nearly all of his time exploring it, meeting its people, making movies, ending his radio audience. In the 1930s, few Americans spent more time in more airplanes than Will Rogers. And it was on a flight to Alaska in 1935 that he lost his life. America mourned for him as they had for few other public figures, and the affection went both ways. Will Rogers had said, "I never met a man I didn't like." No movie producer has ever brought more laughter to the world than Roach, whose studio was nicknamed The Lot of Fun. In 1921, Roach looked out his office fascinated by the play of neighborhood. If kids can hold my thought, maybe a short time later, he'd assembled the first of dozens of kids who over 2 years would make up Our Gang. Roach avoided slick child actors. Instead, he went for real kids like Farina, Stymie, Shirley Jean and Dorothy, Chubby, Weezer with Pete the Pup, 19, in which the gang builds their own kind of mule-driven wagon.
Hey, Chubby, you all ready? What's the matter? Hey, Chubby, this is my career. Hey, Chubby, come on, run!
In 1931, Roach signed a 3-year-old rascal from Texas and best-loved member of the Our Gang comedy team, George McFarland, whose mother gave him the lifelong nickname Spanky. Spanky staged his own basement version of the Follies in 1937. Leading the band is another Our Gang favorite, Buckwheat, played by Billy Thomas.
We're going to start our volleys. We hope you like everything is ready. We're ready to go. We'll all the latest is full of them. We're gonna start with high jump. Just watch this car.
Up next is Our Gang lady at the age of 4, Darla Hood. Yes, by Carl Switzer. Alfalfa was Spanky's, a character famous for his bug-eyed, delightfully squeaky singing voice.
Try that again. Why, it's preposterous.
Thank you very much. You're not so bad yourself.
1924, 200 films were made. Hal Roach's Little Rat still being loved all over. Let's close our folly or song. Alfalfa's parody of a Bing Crosby. Charlie Chase, with his famous toothbrush mustache, was a singer, dancer, actor, and musician. Started making movies in 1914. Charlie Chase played a normal-looking man like Harold Lloyd, who often found himself trying to cope with impossible situations. Side-of-the-building thrills, again like Lloyd, were part of Charlie's game. Charlie Chase had a special fondness for the comedy of embarrassment. Here's a sample. Charlie in the 1920s when he moved from the fun factory of Mack Sennett to Hal Roach's Lot of Fun. What's this? Thorn in the lion's paw? In this 1926 romp, Charlie got to show off both his fencing skills and his shortcomings. Elsewhere in the same film, Charlie, now the king, gets an ice cream surprise. Oliver Hardy, yes, Dwayne the Hot Sun's raised Charlie's crown. Charlie Chase took filmmaking seriously as a writer and director of his own films and those of other stars like the Three Stooges. The Charlie Chase we'll best remember, though, was the lovable everyman whose laughter was contagious all over the world.
Inspector Kane speaking. What? I'll two of my best men. Boys, where'll you be when I need you?
Right here.
Okay.
I told you not to make that last payment.
Best loved comedy team of all time. Stan to America in 1910 with Charlie Chaplin. In his early films, he played an aggressive go-getter, complete opposite of the slow-witted Stan audiences would come to. In his early films, Oliver Hardy played comic villains and often performed his own stunts. Here in Baby Days, he truly scares the wits out of his youthful co-star. Stan Laurel and first appeared together on screen in this 1917 film, Lucky Dog. They weren't yet a team, and 9 more years Hardy would work together again and become the funniest team on film. Stan and Ollie made 105 Road Studios. Once they teamed, they always played the same two guys. There always seemed to be one beat behind else's. Flat-footed walk for himself, very heavy shoes was removed. He was also a little bit clumsy.
What are you doing with that cushion?
Where? See?
He was in every respect an adult child who rarely seemed the situation.
Say, where are we going?
This tunnel leads to the outside wall. We're making our escape.
Well, are we allowed to do that?
Go ahead.
As for Ollie, who in real life had been raised to be a Southern gentleman, his trademarks included a kind of pompous dignity. His tie twiddle, and his direct appeal through a soulful stare right into the camera. Stan and Ollie seemed to be making a shambles out of anything they tried, like washing shirts. About 1 million shirts. Oliver Hardy's first showbiz experience was as a boy, and then he and Stan would add a little music to their magical mix.
Shine on, spoon, up in June or July. Snow time, take no time to stay outdoors and spoon. Shine on, harvest moon for me and my gal.
Stan Laurel used to describe these two on-screen characters as two minds without a single thought, facing the perils of life together with optimistic hearts. There was genuine affection. They were in arms who loved working together, and it showed in the timeless joy they brought to the screen. Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy, together forever as legends of comedy. Our next legend was born William Claude 79. W.C. Fields started out as a comic juggler in vaudeville. In 1915, he made his movie Pool Sharks, but what really brought him to the legend level was the advent of science. Here he is in 1930 dealing with a frequent nemesis, children.
Hello, little girl. How old are you?
5 years old.
5 years old.
Will you give me $1 to put in my bank?
If you'll sing me a song.
Need $1.
You're more than 5. Go on, get out.
Come
Come on, slam. Who's great? How do you do, Mrs. Broadbottom?
How do you do? Still here.
Fine,
Would you mind
thank you.
taking care of her?
How's Mr. Broadbottom?
Just a minute.
Hey, what's this we're taking in? A little woolly britches. Don't you know this will kill you? And here she is. Oh.
W.C. Fields, a charlatan, a man against motherhood, fatherhood, brotherhood, and children. Nation of brutality and comedy. Never give a sucker an even break, said Fields, own unique philosophy.
I'm a very kind-hearted person. I've never hurt man, beast, or child. Except one.
Here he is in a typical role as a dentist.
Have you ever pulled before?
No.
This won't hurt you much.
Get your foot out. Get it out. Tear this coat.
I'm gonna give her gas. Pull me all around the floor.
W.C. Fields, the barber.
Okay. Wasn't your fault. I can fix it. No harm, no harm, no. Got a mole? Yeah, I've had it all night. Oh, won't have it anymore. I want to shave. Ah, here we are. Here, right in there and sit down. And I'll turn the steam on right away. All right, then. Now, don't stay in there over a minute. See, and if it gets too hot, just button the wall. And if you get in any trouble, just pull that rope, and the horn will blow up there, and I'll get you right out. Now, it won't be long. He's in there a minute, it'll take a ton off him. Say, what's that dog? Oh, it's a very funny thing. The other day, a man was there, and I was shaving him. Slipped, and I cut his ear off. The dog got it. Ever since, he's been hanging around here away. He's going to get another week. Oh. I don't know. I don't know. Biting your nails.
Fields on screen exhibited every weakness. He was mean, a drunkard, a teller of tall tales, eccentric, intolerant, and very, very funny. He pretended to despise 1940.
Well, I think I'll be a high tail over the rim.
67.
And it ain't a big night out. Long time.